Whenever you're ready, let me. All right.
شيخنا الكريم سلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. كيف أحوالك حبيبي؟
Alhamdulillah, حبيبي شيخنا. How are you? How are things with you?
Alhamdulillah, everything's been good. Can't
Apologies
complain.
for last minute little interruptions, but we should be fine now. Hopefully, we got there at the end.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
what a lot of interruptions. عرفت الله بفسخ العزائم ونقد الهمم وحل العقود. You plan something, God plans something else.
100%. Without moment.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. How have you been?
Alhamdulillah, I can't complain. Alhamdulillah, I've been serving with Hilal Fatimiyya in the Fatimiyya season. And today, or yesterday, is the demise of Alqasim ibn al-Imam Musa ibn Ja'far al-Kadhim alayhi salatu salam. Now, many
Alhamdulillah.
people, including myself, do not know much about Alqasim, have not visited him, and do not know that he has a son. Imam Kadhim has a son in Iraq, buried, called Al-Qasim. So, Sheikhna, if you could just tell me who is Al-Qasim ibn Imam, the son of Imam Kadhim, just like a brief biography about him.
Before you get to that, the initial thing that you said, I just want to say, let
Mm.
me begin by saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. But before you mentioned that there are a lot of you mentioned that a lot of people do not know, but there's a lot of shrines that are unknown that people haven't visited, whether in
Oh,
Syria, Lebanon, Iran, other than what there is in Iraq.
mm,
And there's a lot of places to visit. There are a lot of mazars. And obviously with Al-Qasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, salam Allah alayhi, my first introduction to him was when I think it was about 12 years old,
mm.
and Sheikh Fadl Al Khatib, Allah yahfadhu, the father of Ali Fadl,
Yes,
Ali
yes,
Fadl the
oh, okay,
Fadl.
yes, yes.
Yeah, his father came here and he did a majlis of Al Qasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, and I was really affected by the majlis. It was
Subhan-
like, it was like the first time I had heard the majlis of Muslim ibn Aqid.
mm.
What really took me back, it always strikes something with my heart, and especially Al Qasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far. And the reason why there isn't much to be recalled, because initially all the Qudama, the authors in the first few centuries after in the Ghaiba, the ones that were around in the Ghaiba Sughra and the Kubra, beginning of the Kubra, obviously we're in the Kubra as well. They didn't record like people like Sheikh al-Mufid, and he's like in Kitab al-Irshad. They just mention Al-Qasim ibn Musa by name, that he was one of the sons of Imam al-Qasim. And it wasn't until later authors where they actually mentioned the story in detail. And that's why it has been overlooked. And obviously, he's one of the children of Najma or Tuktam, who is, as you know, his mother Tuktam. If you go through, obviously, when you're learning about the birth of Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam, or the birth of Fatima al-Ma'suma alayhi salam, you will know that uh, of her origin, she's been spoken of by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. He's spoken of her to the point that even where her name is a name that means Tukta means the one that gives bounties and blessings. And obviously, her three children excel when it comes to this and their status and their position in the eyes of God. Most importantly, our eighth holy Imam, Al Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam, and then Fatima al Ma'suma alayhi salam, whose shrine has been referred to by Ahl al Bayt as that this is the sanctuary of Ahl al Bayt. And as you know, one of the two biggest houses, Islamic seminaries in the world, is in Qom al Muqaddasa. And now with Al Qasim ibn al Hassan, Al Qasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, it's tragic his story. So I'll just give a brief understanding of what his story is like. Because after Imam al-Qadhim alayhi salam had been arrested and he spent a lot of his life in prison, the accusation that they had against him is that he was planning a coup against Harun al-Abbasi, who they refer to as al-Rashid, and that's the title that they give him. Um, but he was from Banu al-Abbas, so I'll call him al-Abbasi, one of the Abbasid kings, which I refuse to call him a caliph because unless we use it as the other term. But he was one of the Abbasid kings, and he imprisoned the seventh holy Imam. Are you still online? Are you still with us? Or you disappeared? What happened?
My
I
camera.
continue. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, sorry. So the seventh holy Imam, while he was imprisoned, there was he firstly loved Al-Qasim intensely. He had a great love for him, and when the Imam had been imprisoned and when he was taken away, the sons of the Imam, if you know, during the Imam's time, a lot of things happened. You had the people that firstly had not accepted Imam al-Qadim, the Ismailis, and you had the people that were the Waqfiyah, the ones that believed that Imam al-Qadim was the Imam al-Hujjah. He'd went into a ghaiba and he'll come back. And then you had the ones that even the ones that were representatives that were collecting a hummus for him, they just took money and took off and didn't refer or move towards the eighth holy Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa. And so during this time, everyone was being hunted, and people that were linked to the Imam were being looked for and sought after. So of them that went into, if you want to say an occultation of some kind, what's it called, into hiding, was Al-Qasim ibn Musa ibn Jafar. Now, he arrived in Al-Hilla and he was incognito. No one knew who he was. And that was the life of him being on the run because of, obviously, when we say being on the run for a righteous cause, not being on the run for, God forbid, something not righteous. And he was a guest with the townspeople. Apparently, the person he was a guest with was the leader of the tribe there, and these tribes were the tribe there of they were muhabbin la Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, yani people that would follow Ahl al-Bayt, because the term that we use today, where they call us whatever titles, are wrongly given to us. When we're called Shia, we wish we were Shia. When they call us Rafida, we wish we were Rafida. We haven't got these stations and positions. But if they want to call us this, inshallah, Allah puts us with the Rafida and with the Shia on the Day of Judgment.
Ilahi
We'll be happy.
Amin. Ilahi
Ilahi
Amin.
Amin. So these people, we used to call them, they would be called mu'mineen, people that generally believed in Walayat Amin al-Mu'mineen are called mu'mineen. They were believers in the Walaya of Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. So he went amongst them, he was there as a guest. He was there as a guest. And after 3 days, he wanted to leave. They said, we enjoy your company, remain. And he said, no, a guest only remains for 3 days. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam has said that after 3 days, it becomes sadaqah. And I can't take, he refused to take sadaqah. Yeah. So they said, all right, can you work for us? And now, because they didn't know who he was, you need to understand. See, if you do not know, is that أنت ما عرفت نفسك. Sometimes people might think when the Imam بيعرف نفسه, and the Imams are the epitome and the manifestation of humility. They are the most humble people, but sometimes they have to let people know who they are. That's why Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, when he said, whoever does not know me, I will tell them who I am. I am Ibn Makkah wa mina ana. and he started mentioning who his father was, who his grandfather was, who he is. And it's not bila fakhr, as they say, that they do not do this out of boasting and pride. No, God forbid, right? Because in the end of the day, he's Abdullah. He has his honor and his dignity is being a servant of God, as Amir Mu'min says. This is where his pride is, in being a servant of God. So if someone doesn't know who you are, they're not gonna know how to treat you. They're not gonna to do your taqdeer. I met someone in a shopping center once, and I was talking to him. We're having a discussion, and then later, we're talking. He said, because he saw me in my garb, I was wearing a Alqasim, and he said to me, "Are you a religious person?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a religious man, like an Islamic priest."
Yeah.
And then he told me, and he was dressed like in trackies. And then he
Right.
told me, "Yeah, what do you do?" He said he's an ophthalmologist, he's an eye doctor, but you wouldn't be able to tell by seeing him carrying his basket and he's doing his shopping, you wouldn't be able to tell. And he was able to tell because I was dressed, whereas I wasn't able to tell with him in his tracksuit.
Because he was.
So when they saw Alqasim, he looked just like a traveler. They didn't know who he was. So one of the works, he saw some women they were irrigated. They were irrigators. They were people that were water carrying, bringing water, because it's not like us. We have these pipes that bring water to a house. And in those days, you had to bring water for the day to use. You get it from the river. And he said to them, "I will work as one of these water carriers, as it's a menial task. It's something where you'd get your khadam to do, your servants." And this is the task he took, because they don't see anything. It's very important for people to see that they don't see anything as a menial task, that this has to be done. It's a job. And they worked better than to be, listen to this, he would rather work as a water carrier better than being someone that takes sadaqah. Very important for people to see this. For me to live as a shahad, as a beggar, or for me to sit there and gaddi on someone, or those people, those freeloaders that when you go out, they always make sure everyone pays for them. They never have their wallet with them. They never have money with them. They expect everyone to pay for them. Look at Al-Qasim ibn Musa ibn Jafar. It shows you work as a water carrier, work as a water carrier. So he worked as a water carrier. He served them. Then one day they became fond of him because he was a man. They could see Safat al-Anbiya. They could see the purity, the nur in his face. When you sit with a righteous person, you feel this. So
Yeah,
they said, huh?
I'm like, I feel it now sitting with you, Sheikh.
Allahumma ij'alni khayran mimma yadhunnun waghfir li ma la ya'lamun. Bilfa'al, may Allah forgive what you do not know. Yeah, honestly, and I say this, may Allah forgive me what you do not know. Trust me. Alhamdulillah, this is probably the best part of my day, doing what I'm doing right now.
Alhamdulillah.
So anyway, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. They wanted to keep him there with them. So this leader of the tribe, he offered to marry him to his daughter, to keep him with them. But he said, "We need to know who you are." He said, "I'm a gharib, I'm a stranger, and I'd like to remain." But they saw too much good from him. They went on this. Sometimes you meet someone and you feel that this person's pious, and everyone around you feels they're pious. And I'm someone that trusts my gut. I trust my gut. When I feel, I can feel when you're with a man of God. So they married him to their daughter, and the time came, and this was the time came where, remember, this girl knew who her mother's family was. She didn't know who her father's family was. This is the ghurba. This is being a stranger. People that are, look, you should know, living in this country, you don't know who your interactions with your family is not the same. You go there as a visitor when you go overseas.
That's right.
You don't go there and you're part of them. You've lived with them.
No.
I
You're a
shall,
gharib.
huh?
You're a gharib.
Yeah. Imagine that you're gharib from the family of Ahlul Bayt, and you can't even. This is why when I tell people, that we suffer a lot. Us. I said the people at Imam al-Askari's time, they were not able to talk to him unless he beckoned them or called them towards him, alayhi salam, because of the oppression. But I go, they still got to see him. They got to see the Imam. We don't even get to see our Imam. So Al-Qasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, he didn't get to see. He was a stranger at the time, even didn't get to see the Imam or be around the Imam of his time because he was living as a stranger. Now, when he reached the end of his life, he gathered the people around them to tell them that this girl has a family. The family of this girl that she needs to go back to. And this family is a noble family, as they had already gathered. And then when they found out who he was, that he was the son of Imam Musa ibn Ja'far, they began to weep. They began to cry because they had lived with him for so long, not knowing this. So they start thinking we worked him as a water carrier. We treated him in a certain way. They couldn't cope with this. That this broke them, and especially that he was departing. And this is his story, and that we have in a nutshell.
So, Sheikh, why should we emphasize on reviving his memory specifically? Al-Qasim bin Imam al-Kadhim.
Firstly, it's important to revive the memory of a Salaf al-Salih in general. A
Yeah.
Salaf al-Salih, all the righteous people that were before us, not a Salaf al-Salih like the others say, who they think it is. No, a Salaf al-Salih, the ones that were righteous, especially those that left a mark on history. Why? Because their story can be used as an example. Why Al-Qasim is important? I'll explain. Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Quran, He says, نحن نقص عليك what? The best stories. We will tell you the best stories. Why? If you look at the Quran, God doesn't. If you imagine how big the Quran would be if it told us 124,000 stories of each prophet, Allah picked the best stories. The stories that had parables that we can learn from. Why do you think the story of Musa is oft repeated? Okay? Like I was sitting with my son 2 days ago, and after prayer we sit down and we morning prayer we have a chat. And one of the chats I had with him 2 days ago, I said to him about An-Nasr, victory. I said we had Badr, we had Uhud, and I started talking about all the battles. I said to him, see all these battles, Baba, no one knows anything about them. Some people know a bit about Badr, some people know about Khaybar, isn't that right? And Khandaq. But the rest, they don't Uhud, they don't know. I said, do you know why? I said, because the biggest victory in history is the one that we talk about the most. And he said, which one's that? And I got to think, which story do we repeat the most? Which story? Abu Abdullah. It's the biggest victory. It's intisar ad-dam ala sayf. His story is not the victory of him winning. If you imagine, what would be bigger than Fatah Makkah? The conquest of Makkah, and if you think about it, is the biggest thing. But it wasn't as big as Karbala. Karbala is Islam. If you wanted to give someone Islam in a nutshell, for them to say, this is Islam, with every part of its components, you give them Karbala.
Okay, Abu Abdullah.
That's it. So, if a story has a lot of benefits, like Al-Qasim ibn Musa Ja'far, you have to remember it. There's a lot of great people around, but these stories you have to pick. And that's why we pick stories out to mention on the Mambar, unlike other stories, because they have the parable. And he was, do you know one of the things that is very important is he had a position. He was a beacon for the masses. You know what I mean? He's someone that people are guided by. Yet he was happy to serve God as a water carrier. Reminds you of who? Of who does it remind you of? Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. So Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, when you think about him, he was Hamil Liwa al-Hussein alayhi salam. That this person was the standard bearer. And you know the standard bearer is your supreme fighter. Was Amir al-Mu'mineen was a standard bearer of the army of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam, when he asked permission to fight, and Abu Abdullah told him, Salamullah alayhi, that I need you to fetch water or go get water. For him, this was the biggest task. Why? Because his master, Al-Husayn ibn Ali, salawatullahi wa alayhima, asked him to do this. Alqasim ibn Musa ibn Ja'far, in his ghurba, being the beacon, he had to practice, inshallah. We'll talk in more detail on other questions. He had to practice taqiyya, okay? And he, even to the point where he had to be a water carrier in order to preserve his life, which is paramount. And in order for, so he's a very important example for us to revive his memory.
أحسن شيخ ما يكون مفسر any better.
Sallallahu alayk.
I'll ask you another question relating to Al-Qasim. So it is said that the security situation Al-Qasim alayhi salam lived in was very difficult, to the extent that his commitment to taqiyya extended to hiding his own name. So what is taqiyya and why is it emphasized?
Okay. I'll give you a hadith عن الإمام جعفر ibn Mohammed الصادق عليه السلام. طبعا I'm paraphrasing. I'm not reading from Nas.
No.
But he says that if the bird knew what was inside the bee, that they would basically eat the bees. They would tear them shreds. They knew what was inside them. He said, likewise, if the people knew what was in the hearts of the Shia, you know what I mean? They would kill them all. Why? Because you have something they can't have. You have a love that makes you a love for God and His Messenger and Ahlul Bayt. And when I say the love for God, yes, you say a Jew believes in God, a Christian believes in God, Muslims that don't believe in Ahlul Bayt believe in God. That's true. But they don't have this love. I had a friend of mine that reverted to Islam, okay? And he told me, I was a Christian, but I love Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus Christ. I love him more as a follower of Ahlul Bayt than I've ever loved him. Why? Because he knows who he is. The ma'rifah for Ahlul Bayt, he's understood his position. So before, as a Christian, when they viewed him as God, wal'iyadu billah, he didn't have the same regard as when he became a mu'min. When you become a mu'min, when you start following, you have removed the veils of ignorance. You're no longer ignorant. Now you've got the veils have been removed. You have the nur of guidance. You start to see the way you're meant to see them, who they are, what their position is. So this is what you are carrying. Now you are taught. If you saw recently Lindsey Graham, this is yesterday, I think, or he got up and he said the enemy of, this is a US senator, he said the enemy of the world are the Shia. He actually said that. Everywhere. They're the ones that should be sought.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, you saw that. So you know this. Because do you know why Shia are not like? Because Shia refuse to accept falsehood. See, as a Shia, if someone wants to say something about even a alim that I love and I follow, and they provide evidence that's enough for me, if you take a look at one of the ulama that was very prominent in the Hawzat, and people used to follow him, he had his own TV station where he was always debating Salafiyya, and then one day he just started letting out what was really hidden in his heart and started to attack the khat of the Tashayyu', saying the books of the Tashayyu' are full of
the whole aqidah.
The whole Aqidah, Ahsan. And look at how he was taken away in the dustpan and thrown into the bins of history. Everything he had was thrown away because the Shia don't accept this. We don't accept someone to get up with hypocrisy and accept him. We'll reject you straight away because the Shia follows Haqq. But every other religion, you told them this guy, Bawag, this guy's a thief. But God chose him. This guy, Absar, who his mother is, his auntie. God knows how many people they went. There was not a love triangle, a love trapezium to bring this person onto this planet. But they say, oh, but he's the one that uh, did this and did that, and he's the one that God said Islam will not stand until he becomes a Muslim, and they'll go out of their way to make way for who they love. But the Shia only follows Haqq. And this is why the Shia has to practice taqiyya sometimes. And the taqiyya, Rasulullah gives you in the Zaman al-Jawr, he says to us in Zaman al-Jawr, afwan, Zaman al-Jawr, in the time of this oppression, he says, alaykum bihafd al-lisan wa luzum al-bayt. Be aware of what you say, you know. And luzum al-bayt doesn't mean lock yourself up, but means keep to yourself. Okay? Now, the tashkhis of what Zaman al-Jawr is up to you. So don't ever say to someone, this guy doesn't know or that guy doesn't know. See, for example, for me, I believe as long as we still have a way to have a freedom of expression, we speak. But if they're hunting us down, pulling us out of our houses in the middle of the night, this is when you start practicing taqiyya. And that's what taqiyya is. It's for you to save your life in order for you to save your life or the life of others, or save yourself from unbearable, intolerable, and severe persecution. You conceal your faith, and that's what it is. And this is paramount for the survival of the faith. Otherwise, if there was no taqiyya, do you think Islam would have came to us? We wouldn't have had Islam. Wouldn't. Muawiyah's dream of La wallah illa dafnan dafna, the name of Rasulullah, Islam would have all been buried if we didn't practice taqiyya.
Beautiful, beautiful, said Sheikh. I've learned something new today. SubhanAllah. We've got about 9 minutes left, so I'll ask you this next question and we'll end it. Alqasim faced temptations from some women in his exile, but he remained steadfast and did not commit any sins. Today, some of the youth, as we all know, I'm guessing Sheikh, when you deal with them, in schools, universities, or work environments, they face temptations from women. So, what's some of your advice to them, to learning from Alqasim on how he stood steadfast? So, what would some of your advice be to them?
Look, it's incomparable because the temptations that they faced in the other days were not like today.
No, yeah.
Today, just to let you know that they're planning on bringing out a law. I'm not going to say in detail, so I don't want anyone to Google what I'm talking about. A certain dress code, which is apparently all the suburbs that are next to beaches. There's a certain dress code that women are wearing now that they're thinking of bringing out a law to prevent women from going out in this dress code. That deviation has reached this point. The first thing is, if you're someone, and you can take it the way you want, if you're someone that is going to be very affected, and when you go to places where you're going to be very affected, there's ways to study through correspondence. And if you can't lower your gaze, you can't get out. That's your first one. The second thing is be very respectful. Be very respectable, and then people will be forced to respect you. And if they don't, then you have to abstain from places where you will get a lot of exposure. Like, don't go to the shopping malls in the middle of blazing heat where you're going to see all shapes and sizes. And don't go to around the beaches and whatever you see if the weather's ripe for this. Now, with the case of Alqasim, Ibn Muslim Jafar, the story is where some girls were discussing and they were talking about the status of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that's a story that's apparently known. And he went about the right way. So if I see a girl that I find she's got good iman, because that's what you're looking for. You're looking for sutra. When you get married, it's very important for the youth. You're not getting married to a trophy wife. Because if she looks like $1 million, she's looking like $1 million for everybody. The mu'mina saves the cabinet and opens it up on the wedding night. And then you are the only one that's privy to whatever beauty she has concealed. But the one that's there and she's parading this trophy is being devoured by everyone's eyes. And God forbid what else she might give free samples here and there to people. And then you're going to get, whatever's left over.
Yeah.
You're going to get that dog, the toy that the dog's chewed up and thrown out. That's what you end up marrying. So if I find a righteous woman and a good woman, that's what I should endeavor to go through the door, go to her parents' house, ask for a hand. And when I go there, if I'm rejected, get wujahat, people that I trust. If I'm a trustworthy person, if you know what you are, if you're a good person, and don't hit above your weight. You know what I mean? If you're not, if you just stopped drinking yesterday, don't go and ask for the hand of someone that has been living a life of piety. You know what I mean? Look for someone that's trying to pick up the scraps like you are and fix it and build yourself up. This is what I mean. But look for a righteous person that's heading in that direction. And this is what I'm trying to say. Alqasim went in the right manner in order to get married. And when he married the girl, rather than commit what was forbidden, which is available to everyone. I'm just saying today today's like an open buffet. Back then, it was food rationing. Different.
Very. حبيبي شيخنا. We're gonna
Allah
about
salamak عيني.
wish ending here because it could cut off at any minute. Thank you so much for your time, Habibi Sheikhna. It's been a blast. I've learned so much from you, inshallah. A lot more people will take from the story of Al-Qasim and what we spoke about today.
حبيبي عيني دلال خدمتكم إن شاء الله.
حبيبي الحسيني.
Inshallah, may Allah strengthen you all in spreading the teachings of Ahlul Bayt,
إلهي آمين.
because رحم الله من أحيا أمرنا, as Imam Rida alayhi salam says, because if the people honestly knew the teachings, they would follow Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam.
آمين.
And it's good that you're spreading this. God bless you all. Allah
حبيبي
يحفظكم جميعا.
آمين.